welcome to the curtain raiser episode of Click Asia Summit 2016, one of the largest digital transformation and marketing conferences in Asia. The event, which is scheduled to take place on April 21st and 22nd in Mumbai, is a must-attend for marketers and CXOs alike. Click Asia Summit is the largest and a truly one-of-a-kind conference in Asia, which provides a platform for marketers to meet, learn, and grow. Click Asia Summit started in the year 2011, when digital was still in its nascent stage. With the theme, Power of Digital and Mobile Marketing in Asia, the conference was an absolute sellout. Let's take a look at the highlights from that event.
27 million.
But what we're talking about today is the future of analytics and analytics software. And what I'm telling you is essentially no signal is a signal in itself. Listen carefully again. You have a standard playground of all of the kinds of clicks you can check along the way online. All of the social media stuff, the search marketing, the organic search marketing, and the pay-per-click. And on the other piece, you have all the stuff that's going on offline. And at the moment, it's silent in our analytics. We don't understand how this might affect the offline sales and how offline might affect online sales. But we do know it happens. How many folks have run a search campaign where people flood into stores and create more lift? Come on, you guys must have done this, right? And your customer called up or your boss called up and basically said, so nothing happened, right? It's like, they got all the sales over here and they thought they're making money only in the real store and you guys didn't do anything. Nonsense. It affected that. We need to track that sort of thing. It will come over more and more, but you can tell, right, if a store is making sales of a product and then you start running stuff online and more sales get made at the store, you've got to get that number out of people. Right? If you've got a customer with a brick and mortar store and you're not getting those numbers, you have no control. Okay? If you're reporting to those kinds of guys, it's got to be part of what you're telling them. If I take $1 from you and I give you back $10, you're going to play that game all day long, right? But if you do that and I give you back $10 and you're going to give me another buck, this time I'm going to give you back $9. You'll still play the game, sure. And then I'll give you back 8. And then 7, and so on, right? At some point, at one to one, it's like, no, I'm not playing the game anymore. It's just not worth it. We're just trading dollars, right? So at what point do you decide, I'm going to put money into an effort, and I see some ROI coming back out of it? There will be people who say, well, I have to have a 70% margin here, because that's my overhead cost, and so on. And they'll drop down, and they'll pay it just until you give them $7 back for every buck that you've given them, all right? Somewhere around there. And then they say the rest of it was cost of goods, and now I've filled my whole 10, and we're good to go. But suppose you overspent your budget, and the click-through rate got better, and the conversion rate got better, you were actually making more sales. And you think you're bidding towards this number of the $7 over the dollar, right? And it's just, it makes no sense. It has to be numbers in relation to everything else. So you'll need to know, if I spend a certain amount on these 3 things and I make that many sales, what happens if I add the 4th item? What happens if I take away item number 2? And there's your black hole. Whether it's online or offline, there's your black hole. You're going to take away number 2. And there'll be no signal coming in there, right? So that's the sign in itself. What happened to the sales over there? If nothing happened to it, number 2 goes away. Email campaigns, not useful, sorry. Nothing happened. That's never true. Email campaigns are usually pretty powerful, right? But they're not the only thing that happens. Make sure that you're covering all of the grounds and understand that analytics programs, whether it's Web Trends, Omniture, anybody, they're just not covering this stuff yet. You're going to have to test the markets on your own by making sure you have solid information about how all of your channels work online together, and then testing to see what happens outside the market.
Few trends to watch, fragmentation, so you know about the main social networking channels, but we're now finding there's lots of niche channels appearing, talking about specific industries or specific discussion points. Keep an eye on those. There might be a key discussion point or a key group somewhere that's actually very relevant to your target audience. Also think about mobility. Social interaction, the power of feeding back there and then. that is becoming more and more important. So, to quote my good friend Shakespeare, we are advertising to our loving friends. So, really rounding up quickly, some key takeaways, hopefully you've took on board, is don't just get a social media platform. Think about the strategy behind it. B2B is different than B2C. So you have to be more informative, more straight to the point, and cut out a lot of the marketing spiel. Talk business from the start, and talk in plain English, or plain Hindi, as the case may be. So really building that trust, talk about numbers, talk about how your product compares to competitors, your key points, maybe a video or a demo. Communicate fresh and regular content, and make sure you've got people there who can handle with the fresh, immediate content and also the customer responses. But what I would say in the B2B world, it's powerful in the B2C, but it's also powerful in B2B. So please don't ignore. Don't obsess over numbers and fans and followers. Yeah? It's more about the quality and building a community. That will come. Word of mouth, that will come. It's better to have 10 people of quality than 100 rubbish. And don't use social media for self-promotion, because you'll find, although you might all of a sudden get a huge rise in traffic, it will suddenly falter and people won't trust you.
You asked me a question about success. What's failure to you?
Failure is part of the journey. And for some people, failure is the end. But for me, it's just basically a phase. And anytime you reach a certain point in your life, you have to realize that it's not all green. It's not all fantasy. It's going to end up in a situation where you end up making a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I had no education. I had no one telling me or guiding me on what to do. I had to make a ton of them. And through that course, failure comes up. But you got to pick yourself up and realize that nobody else is going to do it for you. It's all in you. And when you do that, you realize that it's all part of the journey, and you eventually do see success.
2012 saw the second edition of the event being held in Mumbai. The event hosted mobile and online marketers, entrepreneurs, brand owners, content developers, and digital media experts, among many others, jointly exploring the potential and power of digital and mobile marketing in Asia. This event created a platform for top marketing professionals to assemble and create a marketplace for discussing and collaborating across every aspect of digital marketing.
That really, digital is not about clicks, it's about conversation. And for us as marketers, what is the opportunity for us when we're looking at engaging with consumers through digital media? We should be looking at digital media through the lens that it is all about relationships. Digital media is a huge opportunity for us to connect more relevantly, more personally, and more intimately with our consumers.
I mean only media running on a desktop computer or a mainframe server. In a recent study, my good friend Nick Gowing of the BBC highlighted how in a moment of major unexpected crisis, and he's a news reporter, the institutions of power, whether political, governmental, military, or even corporate, face a new acute vulnerability of both their influence and their effectiveness thanks to new media technologies. In the 21st century, it's impossible to ignore the issue of the uncontrolled impact of instant news on the workings of society, and more generally, on the impact of new media technologies on political affairs. As Gowing points out, it was a chance video taken by a New York investment banker that dramatically swung public perceptions of the police handling of the G20 protests a couple of years ago. And just 41 seconds of video uploaded on the internet swiftly exposed apparently incomplete police explanations of how and why a particular protester died, and they forced a level of instant accountability from the police about their orders, their behavior, and their operation. Digital media. So when I was in government, I used it to put out information that the mainstream media wasn't interested in. So when, as a Minister of State for External Affairs, I went to Liberia, the first ministerial visit by India to that country in 38 years, it was completely ignored. Who in the Indian newspapers wants to write about Africa? The fact is that, by doing this, I was able to get India's Africa diplomacy much more widely known. So the use of social media to actually demystify the processes of governance and sensitize people to the life and preoccupations of politicians was why I began this process, and I'm so glad to see so many others following me.
It's time for a short break, but after the break, we'll see what's in store for us from Click Asia Summit 2016. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the special telecast of the curtain raiser of Click Asia Summit 2016, India's first and largest digital and mobile marketing conference. After 2 years of a sellout crowd, Click Asia Summit is back. This two-day conference will take place in Mumbai at the Taj Lands End Hotel. Let's take a look at this year's trending topic.
Digital transformation is not an option.
For me, digital transformation is to be able to do the right thing for the user using the right channel.
You cannot say no to it, you don't have a choice.
Digital transformation stands to keep adapting to change.
The digital transformation is becoming more and more of a theme these days.
If you don't join the bandwagon, you probably will be left out of the market because consumers won't be there. You would be in a space where customers are no longer operating.
Digital transformation, the raging topic today. Digitization is not new, but the digital economy is entering a phase that presents unique challenges for all CEOs. Digital tools are entering every sphere of our lives and disrupting everything that we do. This has led to new opportunities and challenges, and has also helped push the digital transformation of businesses. This is the reason one of the main themes of this year's conference is digital transformation. Here's what some of the speakers and attendees of the event had to say on the topic.
Probably now, if I'm a traditional business being disrupted by somebody else, I might hate it, but ultimately when you look back 2 years or 3 years down the line, it's actually a good thing to happen. So when I say, disruptors, I don't necessarily mean talking about the unicorns or talking about the top 50 companies. I'm also saying disruption in the way the users are behaving. So my expectation is now to get delivery at home for everything rather than step out. So that in itself is also a disruption. So the mindset of that, okay, I'm going to still continue to sell from my shop may not work anymore because I have disrupted my mindset here.
Digital transformation, see, the world's becoming a lot more digital in every way, whether it's my driver who has a mobile phone or my maid or everybody, the person, the ticket collector on the bus or the train and so on and so forth, right? The fact that you can go into an airport showing a mobile phone, which was unheard of up till a few years ago. Every little part of our lives is being changed by digital. Now, unlike the US where, first you got, everybody had, 100% of the people had landlines, and then they started getting 1G connections, and then they got 2G mobile connections, and then they got 3G mobile connections. India is going to leapfrog. So we got 5% of our population getting landlines, then 60% of the population got 1G, then 30% of the population got 2G, then 20% of the population got 3G. So we're actually leapfrogging much faster, right? Digital transformation is really understanding how this entire environment change and ecosystem change is changing your business. What can you do to profit from it? What can you do to make sure you don't die? I mean, the mortality of business, look at Nokia. 5 years ago it was awesome, today it doesn't exist. Like, who would have thought that an extraordinary company like Nokia would get it so wrong and would be almost, nothing. Like Microsoft, it had to change its leadership from Steve Ballmer to Satya Nadella for it to have a chance of surviving. So it's no longer about, we will not be affected. Every kind of business is going to be affected unless they transform digitally, unless they learn how to think using different tools, unless they move away from the Philip Kotler, the 4 Ps of marketing, and learn the new rules. I think that's really the key thing. You've got to forget about everything that's been taught to you in the old textbook and learn what's new. If you don't do that, you're going to be toast.
Everything's changing so rapidly, right? Digital transformation happens without you knowing it happening, right? What it means to you is that the forms of engagement with particular piece of content is going to change. So if I'm, interacting with a piece of content, it's going to change tomorrow. Like yesterday, the iPhone SE launched, right? And obviously, it changes the way you consume. Certain users are going to consume certain content because their phones are going to be a lot more faster. So I think it's changing the form of consuming content. Is what digital transformation will be, based on the platforms changing as well as the devices changing.
Staying relevant in the digital space is a race. Click Asia Summit 2016 is real content curation at its best. Robert Scoble, the renowned futurist and tech guru, will be present at this year's conference to kick things off with a keynote speech. Not just that, the event will host a lineup of industry experts from across the world. Let's take a look at some of the big names who will be taking part in this year's Click Asia Summit. Click Asia Summit is a niche conference on digital transformation for enterprises and brands. To put together such an event requires partners who will not only provide support, but also topical guidance. IBM is one such company that has embraced the digital transformation within its organization and is now helping other companies create new business models where digital meets physical. So it is no surprise that IBM is the headline sponsor for this year's Click Asia Summit.
So Click Asia obviously is the premium event where marketers come in, and hence the area of digital engagement is something which is very important to us, right? We operate in that space as a business. We provide solutions towards that. And the use of technology in digital engagement is very high today, right? It's the biggest opportunity that sits with marketers. So for us who operate in the space, and for us to know what else is happening in the industry, what else is happening in India, what are the global players that are doing, this is a perfect platform to learn, this is a perfect platform to showcase yourself and make business.
Click Asia Summit 2016 is a unique event in every sense of the term. This event has no room for mundane and retired themes. All the Click Asia Summit sessions have quirky titles and fun content, independently produced and proudly presented by passionate digital nomads.
My workshop on digital transformation is, I hope, a set of exercises that can take board directors, CEOs, CXOs, VPs, that level of people through the entire thought process and the actual work process, saying how can I fight a startup? How can I think like a startup? How can I stop a startup from taking away my business? And actually, how can I make myself into a far more agile startup-like large company? It's really about bringing some of the qualities of startups into large established businesses. That's what my workshop aims to be.
I'm talking more on the digital transformation. I'll be talking that how new things like a virtual reality or an augmented reality can actually catalyze the whole process of digital transformation. I'll be talking about that, what it means to create a good piece of content in the virtual reality space, what are the key features which you need to look out for, and how it will benefit the brands at large.
Click Asia Summit will be a bigger success this year with Event2Mobile partnering with them. An enterprise events app platform, the Event2Mobile app will provide unparalleled engagement and value to the attendees, exhibitors, and the organizers of Click Asia Summit 2016. With the world moving towards digital transformation, disruption has become a norm. With artificial intelligence and virtual reality taking a front seat these days, nothing seems to be impossible in the near future.
We have a lot of new technology with upcoming augmented reality and virtual reality platforms. So we try and create experiences for consumers which are meaningful for them and which give them the experience of the product pre-purchase and post-purchase. Like for example, we recently launched Tiago, and we've created a virtual drive experience for consumers. Even before the car is available physically for consumers to see it, we created an experience whereby they can virtually experience it. They can see the exteriors of the car in 360-degree format. They can get into the car and understand the features which are there. They can take a test drive, a virtual test drive actually. And so that's a very interesting experience, a very meaningful experience for the consumers, And they can finally, with the app, they can also book a actual test drive. They can pre-book a car on that.
The secret behind the last 2 sold-out Click Asia conferences has been the heavy emphasis placed on choosing relevant and original topics for marketers. Apart from this, the format of the conference itself plays a major role. This is one of the few IP-based events in India which strives to be original. With around 5 keynotes, 18 innovative learning sessions, 6 workshops, and over 55 speakers assembling under one roof, this is indeed the largest digital transformation conference in all of Asia.
I expect a lot more events like this to come into India or get homegrown from here. So when I say homegrown, it kind of leads back to that same thing that events like this build communities post the event. It's not like I'm going to the event on that day, I'm collecting a bunch of business cards, I'm just talking to the guys, and it's the first time I'm meeting them. So if you build a relationship before at 2 previous events, so I don't think events in this format exist. There are similar events that are trying to bring the whole sort of digital transformation of people together, but I don't think events like this exist in India yet.
What we're trying to do with Click Asia in terms of efficiency is to adapt from these events, see the formats that work, and make sure that the person who's walking into the conference, for the 16 hours of content, it is efficiently created and distributed to him. So no longer are speakers talking for 40 minutes depending on a PowerPoint. Our speakers are going to be talking TED style 20 minutes on a specific subject that will allow them to deep dive into that subject. Not just touch on it superficially or not let a brand come and say, oh, we are awesome, look at us, not that kind of stuff. But what really bothered them, how did they learn from that? Then there's a wealth of information that comes out when you change the formats a little bit. So we have the keynote structures, then we have these sessions which are longer, not running on 20-30 minutes. Very little reliance on PowerPoints, a lot of reliance on great content, and also we curate the content. So we don't have speakers applying to us who are automatically part of the panel, but we actually reach out to folks who know the particular domain, and we actually talk to them and tell them, okay guys, we need you to come on board. And then we also introduce these 90-minute workshops, because somewhere our patience is kind of running out when it comes to running 4 days, 5 days workshop. But in a 90-minute workshop, the trainer and the attendee both are very focused at a learning objective. So I would classify Click Asia Summit more under training and development kind of an event rather than a big picture, big vision kind of an event. And that's the core objective.
If you are a startup or a CXO, a brand owner or an MD, or hold any of the above mentioned titles, Click Asia Summit 2016 is the place to be. Get your passes and be ready to attend the largest digital transformation conference in Asia on the 21st and 22nd of April at Taj Lands End in Mumbai. So if you're serious about your business, here's where you need to be. See you at the event. This is Pooja Jain signing off.